Greetings and welcome to another fun-filled episode of Learn About Port Wine. I am so excited to share about a recent, absolutely awesome port wine experience I just had. I got to be one of the few people to go through the first ever Churchills Tawny Blender session. It was just 100% awesome, and I am going to tell you all about it and why I think you should take part in it right after the opener. So I was just strolling through Insta a couple weeks ago. I saw a posting from Churchills about this Tawny Blender session, and I was like, what is that? The information in Insta, and there really wasn't much information in the post, was just to contact them via email, and I did, and it turned out to be just an amazing time spent learning about port wine. Basically what it is, it's an opportunity to, one, learn about Churchills and their amazing wine, learn about the process of selecting vintage wines, and then the chance to blend your own 20-year tawny port, which you actually get to take home with you in a small bottle. Some of the things I talk about might not pop up in future versions of the Tawny Blender session, but I'm going to tell you the experience I had and why I think it was just great. When it was time for things to begin, we met our leader and instructor, Ron, who is also the cellar master at Churchills. First, he took us into the ruby aging room where they have the large vats. And there was a little media presentation there about the history of Churchills. He talked a little bit about how vintage wines are stored and then bottled. And then we went into the vintage storage area. This is wines that have already been in bottle and they are now laying down, aging for decades. If you're not familiar with Churchills, they are a small producer. They focus all of their effort on wines of the best quality. So they definitely stress quality over quantity. And once you've sampled some of their wines, it's very evident. After our time in the vintage aging room, Ron led us into a private tasting room, and this was going to be for the ruby classification part of the session. Basically, we were presented with 3 levels of wine. We then examined each wine through a set of criteria, and if you're familiar with WSET or pretty much any other form, it was the same process of you look at the wine for clarity and color, you smell the wine for any indications of fault or components, and especially any standout aromas. You taste the wine, and you're tasting for prevalent flavors as well as acidity levels and finish. We looked at the 3 different levels of wine and what sets one apart from the other. And then right after that, he gave us an unknown wine, and we had to classify it as to which level that wine would fit in. I really like that portion. I don't know a lot about vintage ports. I'm much more of a tawny guy, but I really like the approach of how we learned about the level 3 wine, then the level 2 wine, and the level 1 wine. And instead of, I've been to other tasting sessions where you're given a bunch of wine and they're like, okay, tell us what you think is the best one. And it's like, oh, I don't know. That's why I'm taking the class. So this was much more of a learning process. And then we got to use what we just learned in classifying the unknown wine that he gave us. From there, we headed out of that building, across the alley, where they house the rows and rows of barrels used for aging tawny port. Anytime I step into a room like that, I just like get the giggles. It's just very cool. Ron did a brief rundown on how tawnies are aged and how they are tracked through the cellar system. Then he took us to the end of the cellar where a table had been set up for our blending session. And this wasn't just like a table with some glasses of wine. This was like the coolest mad scientist setup ever. There were like beakers and vials and tubes and all kinds of anything you would need to blend the perfect tawny port. Ron then led us through the process that Churchills follows when they make their wines, and then basically let us do our thing. And it was just a matter of, we were giving 3 wines. There was a master wine, a reserve wine, and then a W wine, which was like a control wine. Then it was just a matter of mixing, starting with the master, and then adding these other blends to get that flavor profile that the person mixing, me, was going for. The 3 wines that we had, each had a different level of aging, and we were able to, like I said, mix these. And this was just a matter of, you know, a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and you take a taste, and is it where you want it? And if not, you go back to the mixing. Basically, in the end result, you end up with what you think is a good representation of a 20-year tawny. And I ended up with this, Reid's first tawny. And I'm actually quite proud of this. Everything about this experience was just wonderful. It was a perfect blend of instruction and hands-on work. One thing that Ron really stressed to us, that what we were doing, it wasn't just like a typical wine tasting, or this is what these wines taste like kind of thing. He said, this is what they actually do at Churchill with all the wine that comes in that's ready to go to begin the aging process. Every single wine is tasted by certainly the cellar master, by the winemaker, by all the people involved. And they do exactly what we did. They assess the wine for all of those characteristics, and then they determine what is going to happen with that wine. Will it end up as a reserve? Will it become an LBV? Or will it take that coveted title of a vintage port? And during the tawny session, it wasn't like they were giving us, like the cheapest wine available or junk wine so we could, play with, our blends. This was like their legit wine. And one of the cellar workers came over and filled up one of the bottles right from the barrel, just like boom. This is the wine that they age, and when it's ready, they sell it. And that's the wine we were working with. One of the reasons I enjoyed this so much was because it was that blend of learning and what felt like real world experience. When we came here 3 years ago, I thought Porto was going to be lousy with opportunities like this, and that it was just going to be a matter of which one to go to. And as far as learning opportunities, they're just not there. So, I was thrilled to see it. I was thrilled to be a part of it. And I was thrilled that it was the experience that it turned out to be. If you're watching this channel, this is probably something you're going to like. The price for the Churchills Tawny Blenders session is 125 euros, and I think it is well worth it. And you get to go home with your own 20-year port. This is unique. Nothing else like this exists in the world. And yeah, I'm proud of it. And finally, to the good people at Churchills, on bended knee, I humbly beseech you that you not only keep this going, but add other programs like this. Virtually anything you can think of, I'm signing up for. And I am more than happy to be your guinea pig. And for the viewers, please do everything you can to try to be a part of this, because it was It was educational, it was a great experience, but most of all, it was just fun. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. Thank you very much for watching, and don't forget, you can make your own port.